For grade 6 ABRSM, most candidates, in my experience, have more difficulty with section B and section D. For section A, you need to repeat the upper part of a two-part phrase. Now, you're either singing or playing. You need to make the choice. I need to talk about it as if you're just going to sing. The examiner will play it twice, the key chord will be given and the starting note will be given, and then 2 bars will be counted in. As soon as the examiner gives you that starting note, hum it. That's my first tip. Then you have a reference note that you can keep for the whole of the test, of this part of the test. But you need to hum it as soon as possible so you get a feeling for it. Other tips are, on the second playing, hum along with that melody that the examiner gives you. That's so you can get a feeling for the vocal line and the pattern of the tune. When it comes to actually singing it back, make sure you sing it really loudly and clearly so that the examiner can hear you. Be aware of the fact that you get marks for confidence. So even if you're not confident about it, sound confident. Just, make it sound as if you know what you're doing, even if you're not sure. Another tip is, if you're not sure what you're doing, make it up. This is really important because the examiner will be listening to the rhythm and the pitch. He won't be listening to the voice quality, forget about that. It doesn't matter what kind of voice quality you've got. We're interested in the rhythm and the pitch. So the chances are you'll get one or the other right, even if you make it up. And you might even just get it right, just improvise. Just make it up. But I mean, if you don't do anything and you just stop, you won't get any marks at all, that's for sure. So make it up, try and be confident and make it up. Now, to prepare for this test, it's a good idea to do some singing along with your favourite songs. You will need to just warm up your voice, make sure that, if you're not very confident at singing, that you do as much singing as possible and as much humming as possible. So you can start off humming and then do a bit of singing as well. Just sing along with your favourite pop songs or classical songs. Just sing along with them and try and warm up your voice so that it's ready. It's a control. You will just feel a lot more confident if you practice. Section C is a relatively easy part of the grade 6 oral test, in my opinion, because all you have to do is to identify whether something sounds finished or unfinished at the end when the examiner has played it. So if it sounds finished, it will sound something like at the end. It'll sound like it's finished. That's a perfect cadence. If it sounds unfinished, let's see if I can find one that's unfinished here. Tune sounds as if it might go on. Therefore, it's an imperfect cadence at the end instead of a perfect cadence. If you're not sure, remember you've got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. So don't say I don't know. Take a deep breath and decide on your answer. But hopefully you should be able to hear whether it sounds finished or unfinished. So finished is perfect, unfinished is imperfect. Section 6B is all about sight singing. It's sight singing with accompaniment, so the examiner is going to be playing with you. You're given about 15 seconds to look through the piece of music that you're given, and the key chord is given and named, and the starting note is given and named as well. Now, as soon as that happens, hum the starting note so that you get some feeling for where you're going to be starting from. The speed is indicated as well by the examiner. Then you have about 15 seconds after which, to prepare. And the examiner then gives you the key chord, the starting note again, and he or she will count you in before you start together. My tips are that you need to sing in a loud, clear voice so that the examiner can hear you accurately. Make sure that you hum the starting note straight away, as I said before. Identify all the points where the tonic returns and maybe the starting note as well. So get some kind of feeling for where the tune lies. It won't jump up and down too much, but you need to get some feeling for the shape of it. Work through the music, aiming either towards or away from the starting note or the tonic, so that you get some feeling for where it is in relation to where you're starting. Work out any leaps you're unsure of by singing the notes in between the actual notes. So, for example, if you have an A and a C, then sing A, B, C. So if you've got la, 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 just sing in between. Remember to count. You can tap your toe inside your shoe to try and keep the beat steady all the way through. When you're doing the actual test, remember the points you've identified, the tonic and the starting note. So, as I said, try and get some feeling from where you started from and go up and down accordingly. When you're doing the actual test, find awkward jumps by either singing or imagining the scale, or if you know already that you've got the note wrong, readjust as quickly as you can by looking for the next tonic or the starting note and aiming towards or away from that. Listen to the piano part. Stay with it, but don't sing along with it exclusively. Obviously, you're going to be singing different notes to the pianist, so don't allow yourself to be drawn into copying the piano while you're doing this. And the final 2 points are, remember, the quieter you sing, the less able you're able to hear your own voice, really. So you need to be confident and sing out. You're more likely to sing the piano part by accident if you sing softly, in fact, and lose your place in your part. So you need to sing out. Don't worry about the vocal quality, because the examiner is not interested in that. He's only interested in the pitch. So try and sing out confidently, whatever. If you get completely lost, as a last resort, make it up. Follow the shape of the music as best you can and aim to finish on the tonic and follow the rhythm. And you will be really surprised at how much you can get right just by doing this. But remember, if you stop and you don't do anything, you can't get any marks at all. So it's best to just make it up. You have to have a little bit of confidence for this, and that will help. It will help if you actually practice this skill over and over again. There are lots of free tests online that you can access just to get yourself a bit more confident about this test. This is the part of the test that most candidates feel nervous about. So what you need to do is to reduce your nerves and try and sing out as confidently and as loudly as you can. Okay, section D, that's 6D, is all about answering questions about 2 features of a piece played by the examiner. So before the examiner performs the piece of music, they will tell you which 2 features to listen out for. The first feature will be either texture or structure, and the second feature will either be, well, it will be either dynamics, articulation, tempo, tonality, character, style and period, texture or structure. So my tips are, you are being tested on a combination of your critical listening skills and your technical knowledge, but critical listening skills are the biggest part of this test. Describe what you hear. If you also know the technical term for it, give that as well. And remember, if you don't know the technical term, describe what you heard. So here are some technical and non-technical ideas for every part of this test, okay? Your first aim is to describe what you hear in non-technical terms, and then to back it up with a technical term, if you can. Of course, some of what you hear does not have a useful technical description, so don't worry too much. What you need to do is to develop that skill to be able to get used to simply saying what you hear. So, for example, you're listening to melody and accompaniment. That's non-technical description. Chordal accompaniment, repetitive bass line. A repetitive bass line has got a technical term, ostinato bass accompaniment. If all the parts are playing the same melody line at different octaves, then that's called in unison. So that's the technical term for it. If you hear thick chords, thick chord or music, then that's called homophonic. If you hear more than one melody happening at the same time, so that you get a kind of a weaving in of 2 melodies together, that's called contrapuntal or polyphonic. If you have a single line, that's not unison, where more than one part play the same line, often at different octaves, just one single line, then that's called monophonic. So don't panic about these words. These are words to describe the non-technical terms. So if you hear a repetitive bass line, if you can remember, say it's an ostinato bass accompaniment. Start off by saying it's a repetitive bass line, and then say ostinato bass accompaniment. If you hear all parts playing the same melody line, often at different octaves, the technical term is unison. If you hear lots of thick chords, then it's homophonic. If you hear more than one melody happening at the same time, then it's contrapuntal or polyphonic. If you hear a single line but not the unison, you don't hear lots of lots of parts doing the same thing, then it's monophonic. Tonality. If you're listening out for tonality, your main points are, is it in the major or minor key? So that's what you listen out for. So if the examiner asks you to describe tonality, think major, minor, okay? Think of tonalities within tonalities as well, however. So for example, because for grade 6 you need to know a little bit more than just whether it's in the minor or the major key. You need to be a little bit more sophisticated with your listening skills. So for example, if it's in a minor key, it might have a few chromatic notes in it. If it's in a major key, it might have some jazz harmonies. It may be a major key with chromatic notes. So think, is it major or minor? And then try and elaborate on that a little bit, if you can. Now, if the examiner asks you about character, and usually the examiner will say something like, what in the music gives the piece its character? To give a full answer, you need to answer in 2 parts. For example, the staccato touch gives the music a light and lively feel. Or the soft repetitive accompaniment gives the music a flowing feel. Or the slow tempo gives the music a calm and thoughtful character. So what you're thinking, beyond this, okay, you try to list as many elements of the music as possible. So remember, you're talking about character, so highly technical terms are not always that appropriate in the question. You don't have to worry, in other words, about long notes, long words. Let's have a think about all the different elements of character. There's the feel of it, there's the tempo of it, there's the articulation, there's a tonality, there's a dynamics, and then there's the different elements of it. That is, the different structure, the structural elements of it. So with feel, it could be energetic, exciting, calm, majestic, jazzy, sad, cheerful, elegant, light, heavy, sombre, elaborate, colourful, vivid, dramatic. All those adjectives that you can think of to do with the feel of the music. Now, I suggest, because it's a nerve-wracking experience being in the exam, it's probably quite a good idea to learn these words or think about these words and practice them, because when you come to the exam, you might only be able to think of a few. You might only be able to think of happy, sad, angry, or something like that. But there are lots of different adjectives, so try and remember those so that you can match them to the music that the examiner plays. Okay. The tempo could be fast, slow, stately. It could use rubato. Now, rubato is when you slow up and speed up and slow down. You've probably done that in your pieces already, so look out for that. There might be some use of accelerando. It might get faster in one particular area to make it sound more exciting, and it might get slower in one area. It might vary in terms of its speed. Then there's articulation. It could be staccato, it could be legato, or it could be just detached. Now, staccato is very short, isn't it? And then you've got legato, which is very smooth. But it could be detached rather than staccato. It might be that the notes are separated, but they're not bouncy. So listen out for that as well. Then coming to dynamics and elements. So dynamics, it could be loud, it could be quiet. There could be sforzandos. Now, sforzandos are accents, very strong accents. There could be sudden pianos. There could be changes in the music. Think about that too. And then the last element is, are there any scale passages, any arpeggio passages that you recognise? Is there syncopation? Are there some accents on the notes that you wouldn't normally expect? If it was jazz, you will hear that. Are there any contrasts between different sections of the music? Is there use of the bass register? Is there use of the treble register? Is most of the music played at the top of the keyboard or the bottom of the keyboard? Are there any ornaments like trills and mordants and turns? That kind of thing. You'd expect to hear that in Baroque music, for example. So now we come to structure. This is all about how the piece is constructed or built. So in the exam, there's unlikely to be rondo or even ternary form. Now, ternary form is ABA, so you've got an idea and then another idea, and then you come back to the first idea. Because, that the extracts that the examiner is going to be playing are going to be quite short, so there's probably no time for that kind of thing. You're more likely to be asked about the lengths of phrases and how they interact with each other. So, for example, you might have a piece of music that has two sections, so it has one idea and then another idea and then it finishes. So it could be A, B, which is called binary. That is the technical term. So if you hear a piece of music and there's a tune and then there's another tune, then it's going to be in binary form. If it's in three sections, that is, you get an idea and then a second idea and then the first idea again, then that's ternary form. It's possible you'll get that, but as I said, it's only a short extract, so maybe not. That's called ternary, ABA. It might have the same section repeating throughout with different bits in between. Now that is rondo, so that's A, B, A, C, A, D, A. As I said, that is unlikely to be played in a grade 6 exam, but that is the structure of it, rondo. So it's the A is the first theme, the B is the second theme, the C is the third theme, and the D is the fourth theme. So it's quite a lot of moving around. You might have the same phrase repeated several times. There's no technical term for that. You just have to say, oh, the same phrase was repeated lots of times. It was just the same thing. There might be a regular 4-bar phrase pattern to it. Most music is constructed in 4-bar phrases. So if you have a piece of music in 4/4, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That would be a phrase. So look out for that. Or there may be irregular phrases. Don't worry too much about the regular and irregular phrases, but if it does sound as if there's a very short little phrase, da-da-da-da-da, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or something, then that's irregular, because especially if it keeps changing all the time. So you get a little phrase and then a big phrase and then a little phrase and a medium phrase. That's irregular. Dynamics. If you're asked about dynamics, think about dynamics within dynamics. For example, the music was forte for the first part, but was dotted with subito pianos. Now that means, try and use the Italian terms if you can. So it was loud for the most part, but was interspersed with sudden piano sections, piano passages. Subito means suddenly. Or the opening chords were fortissimo, but the remainder of the piece gradually decreased in loudness until the final chord was played at pianissimo. That's another example. Or each phrase started piano, rose up towards a mezzo forte before falling down towards a piano again. So try and think dynamics within dynamics and the shape of the piece. If the examiner asks you about articulation, again, once you've stated the obvious, it can be useful to think of articulations within articulations. So, for example, the piece was mostly detached, but with some legato playing on the faster passages. Or there was a mixture of legato and staccato in both hands. Or it was mostly legato, but with some bright staccato chords at unexpected moments. So you just need a few sentences, really, to use. And a little bit of practice. At the end of 6D, you will be expected to clap the rhythm of the notes after the examiner has played it twice. So he or she will play the extract again, but only a very short part of the extract, and then you have to clap the rhythm back. As per previous grades, I suggest that you keep one hand steady, because if you use both hands, then it's difficult to do that fast. And as you progress through the grades, you'll get sometimes more complicated rhythms and faster rhythms. So it makes sense to start off like that, really. The examiner will play it twice. When the examiner plays it the second time, listen the first time and just quietly tap through the second time so that you can clap clearly and confidently for your example after that. And the final question will be what time the music is in. So you need to decide whether it's in 2-time, 3-time or 4-time, in a very similar way to previous grades. So I hope that was helpful, and good luck.